so excited to sit down with JD Roth, the creator of Get Rich Slowly and author of Money, the Missing Manual. Of everyone in this interview series, JD has had the biggest impact on me in my own life. I discovered his blog, Get Rich Slowly, when I was in college, and it was the first time that I believed that possibly I could save up enough money to reach financial independence. JD, thanks for taking the time to sit down. This is so surreal for me, even though we're now friends. You've had such a huge impact on me in my own financial life. When I first discovered Get Rich Slowly, it was the first time I'd encountered anyone who talked vulnerably about money and their relationship with money. So I want to go back to your own personal story. Where did your money journey really start? And can you talk about how your relationship with money has changed?
Well, I feel like my money journey began when I was a kid. My family, we were pretty poor. I grew up in the middle of Oregon's Willamette Valley, just south of Portland. We had a trailer house out in the middle of nowhere, farmland. My father was often unemployed. Neither he nor my mom really knew how to manage money. They always fought about money. And growing up, to me, I guess I had like a scarcity mindset related to money, I guess I would call it. And it made it so that even as a kid, money was like this magical thing. I didn't understand how money worked because my parents didn't understand how money worked. And then as I grew older, I exhibited the behavior that my parents had modeled, meaning when they would get money, even though they didn't have very much, or maybe because they didn't have very much, they would just spend it all. There was no saving in my house. There was no investing. So when I got into college and went off on my own, I discovered credit cards.
Yep.
My parents didn't have credit cards when I was young, which is a fortunate thing because they would have gotten into tons of debt. So I signed up and it was like Christmas, you know?
Yeah.
Now I can rack up debt to buy all these things I want and I don't have to pay for it right now. Mm-hmm. The future was always off in the distance.
So when did your aha moment come? What was that moment where you're like, maybe I need to change my relationship with money?
By 1995, I had over $35,000 in consumer debt, most of which was credit card debt, and be roughly $65,000 today, I think. So from 1995 on, I understood that, I need to be better with money, but I didn't know how to be better with money. Then in 2004, a friend of mine, actually two friends, one of them said, JD, I can tell you're really struggling with money. Here's a book called Your Money or Your Life by Joe Dominguez and Vicki Robin, and I know you're very familiar with it.
Yep.
So I read Your Money or Your Life, and I was like, oh, wow, this is interesting. Another friend gave me Dave Ramsey's Total Money Makeover, which talks about getting out of debt using the debt snowball. And slowly but surely, I just started applying these ideas to my life. It didn't happen all at once. I'd take one idea here, one idea there, start remodeling how I was thinking about money and how I approached money. In October of 2004, I sat down after reading a bunch of books about money, and I said, okay, what do I want to do? Based on what I have read in these books, I think I could be debt-free in 3 years. And I wrote up this plan. I started following it. And it didn't go exactly according to plan because life happens, right? But sure enough, about 39 months later, just over 3 years later, I managed to pay off the last of my debt.
Wow. So what motivated you to start Get Rich Slowly? Did you start the blog before you'd paid off the debt or after? Can you talk a little bit about that journey?
I started Get Rich Slowly in the middle of it. I've always been a writer ever since I was young. And the way I process my thoughts and my emotions and try to figure things out is through writing. After reading Your Money or Your Life, reading Total Money Makeover, and reading a whole bunch of other money books in the public library, I sat down and I said, okay, what have I learned here? And at the time I had a personal blog where I wrote about cats and computers and comic books. And I said, okay, I'm gonna try to process what I'm learning about money and just write it out. And I sat down and I wrote an article called Get Rich Slowly. And this is like in May of 2005. That article went the 2005 version of viral. And I was like, wow, there's other people out there who are interested in this. I don't know why. I thought I was the only one in the world who struggled with debt. And so about a year later, I was trying to kick around ideas. How can I make some extra money to like kickstart getting out of debt? And I thought, maybe I could start a money blog. And so I started a blog called Get Rich Slowly. And my whole purpose there was to document my journey of getting out of debt. And I thought maybe I could help some other people along the way. And then as a tertiary thing, I thought, okay, maybe I can make a little money too.
Let's go back even further than the early 2000s. In your opinion, where did this idea of financial independence begin in the United States?
In my opinion, Benjamin Franklin was the one who really had the first financial independence ideas. He started sharing these concepts of frugality and thrift in his Poor, Richard Almanac. So you see these ideas crop up now and then. Thoreau's Walden has some very financial independence type ideas in it. The United States is a very individualistic society compared to some other societies where it's more collective or family-oriented or group-oriented. Do you think that because we're an individualistic society, that helps foster this notion of financial independence?
Yeah, I mean, I think this idea of self-reliance, of course, right? This idea that somehow I can take on the burden of existence myself and build my own, castle in my own household. Yes, I think that's really uniquely American. I do think now we're at a point where culturally we're recognizing that maybe we can't do it all ourselves. And I think there has been a slow shift back towards community as currency and the idea that we're in this together. I do want to go back to this idea of building a life you love, because I think at the heart of financial independence is having a happy life that you enjoy. I think because of the tools that are available to us today, it's never been easier to do that. I think that if people figure out what they really want, oftentimes they realize it's a lot less expensive than they thought it would be, and they also recognize that they're a lot closer to that life than they thought that they were.
I think you're touching on something that's very important here, and that is figuring out what it is you want. Everyone, whether they're pursuing financial independence or not, can benefit from having a personal mission. And what I mean by that is deciding what it is that you want to get out of life. I see a lot of people, they're trying to escape a job they hate or a situation that they don't like, and they're pursuing financial independence, and maybe they reach it, but because they don't have any idea of what they want their future to be, they end up in trouble. They end up listless. They struggle once they achieve financial independence or early retirement.
Yeah, let's talk about that space, because in my own journey, after reaching financial independence, there was a real period of mourning. I was really excited that I reached it, but then there was the lack of having such an immense goal. There was also that moment when I realized that, I'd spent about 80% of my brain power every day focused on money. But once I reached financial independence, it was like I got 80% of my brain back, and all of a sudden a lot of the questions that I had been putting off in my life, I had to start dealing with.
Right.
It's one of those sort of paradoxes of freedom, is that you really, really want it until you get it, and then you realize that it's a blank space, and finally you have to deal with yourself. So I really struggled, for a number of years to really figure out not only what I wanted to do next, but just create enough space in my life just to even decompress. Can you talk about sort of how you felt after reaching financial independence?
Sure. I think you're touching on some very important things here. I had always used lack of money as an excuse. I have to go to work, I have to earn money, so I don't have time to go exercise. I don't have time to build relationships with my friends. I don't have time to pursue extra education, go to college classes at night or whatever. When I became financially independent, I realized, you know what? I'm still not exercising. I'm still not spending time with my friends. I'm still not pursuing this extra education that I wanted. And I realized, the money doesn't solve the problem. I have to solve the problem. I have to take action, and I could have been taking action all along. Now, I will admit that when you have the money, it makes it easier to do these things. So once I realized that it had been my responsibility all along, I was able to take action, and I did start losing weight, and I did start taking classes. But I could have been doing that all along. I had just been using the lack of money as an excuse.
And so what does financial freedom mean to you?
In my life, financial freedom means that I have time to do what I want to do when I want to do it. One of my favorite aspects of your writing and of your book is your discussion of how time is more important than money. I think that's fantastic. And because I have financial freedom, because I'm financially independent, I now have time to do the things that are important to me. Now, I'm not very good about doing those things, but I have the time to do it. Whereas if I were working still, I might not have the time to do them.
Are you worried at all about the future and where the world's headed, or is that something?
Aren't we all worried about the future?
Yeah.
Yeah, you bet. I'm absolutely worried about the future. I look around, and this is like the most uncertain time that I have seen in my life. I remember back in 1983, 1984, being afraid of nuclear Armageddon. But in a way, now is almost more frightening than back then. At the same time, I have to wonder, is this just a product of growing old? I don't know. Does it feel like we're in an uncertain time to you compared to the rest of your life?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm 36 now. I think that the next 20 to 30 years will be a massive, massive shift in how people experience the world. I think right now we're in the denial phase of this massive shift in consciousness, whether it's a byproduct of late stage capitalism or the end of an empire or climate change or all, of this wrapped together. There's an immense amount of change that's happening now, and we've yet to, as a culture, come to the realization and being honest with ourselves about what is really happening and how we can best adapt.
One of my criticisms of financial independence movement is it's so rigid. People get stuck in their ideas. They think it has to be this way. It's only my way. Whereas there's so many different ways to come at financial independence.
Yeah.
And I also think you need to be adaptable in your personal life when stuff happens.
Yeah, this is actually how I look at all the work that I'm doing in this space is now through this lens. So this whole course is really designed with a level of urgency that's built on the premise that the world is already in our lifetimes going to look radically different. I think the immensity of this issue we can't even comprehend, and so the rate of change is going to really surprise us. Now is the moment to prepare for this. Now is the moment to increase your savings rate, not so you can live off your investing income forever, so you can have enough money to make choices around where you live and what your life looks like and the opportunities to make money in this economy, right? Stocks are at all-time highs. Right. I think people are taking way more risk than they should be in their lives and their investing. And so it's like financial independence has never been more important in history than this moment. I think the people who are going to most survive and thrive are the ones who are most adept to change.
And I think that's so important in everyday life. Being adaptable and understanding that, yes, this is my plan and this is what I'm doing now, but I might have to change things slightly. That's so important, I think, on the path to financial independence.
Right, things are changing fast. What are you excited about in the future, just in your own life and in your work, and what are you hopeful for?
What I really enjoy is talking to other people about their financial stories. No two financial stories are the same. Everybody's on their own personal journey with money. Everyone has their own struggles. Everyone has their own hopes and desires and own skill sets. So each story is different. And what I hope to do in the future is keep talking with people about money and helping them figure out how they can improve their financial lives. It sounds pretty Pollyanna-ish, but it's really what I enjoy doing, and it's what I've been doing for 15 years now.
Yeah, I think there's a real purity to your purpose, and you talked about having a personal mission statement, and it sounds like having that makes decisions in your life a lot easier to make. You seem to, of all the people that I know in this space, really honed in on the things that you love.
I'm fortunate. I've been able to build this life that I love. And I think it's something that's very exciting and fun to do, is decide, what is it that I want to get out of life? What is it that I want to do? It's such a powerful concept that if you can have something, this dream or this vision that draws you forward, and it doesn't matter what that dream or that vision is, whatever your vision is, figure out what you want to accomplish and then move toward that.
One of the things that had a huge impact on me in this trip to Cincinnati was yesterday we were hanging out and I heard you say, this is one of the happiest days that I've had. What do you mean by that?
I keep a journal, and every day I write like 4 or 5 lines about what happened during the day. And I wrote, this is one of the best days of my life after I went to bed last night. And part of it was spending the time with you and our friends that we were with. It was just, for me, I was with people that I respect and admire and love, and I was engaged in great conversation. I just kind of let go of all my worries. And that's because I have the financial freedom to come to Cincinnati, spend the time with my friends and my colleagues, and just let go. Now, when I go home, I'll be right back into the daily grind of making sure the house is kept up, walking the dog every day. But for that day, that one moment, I'm just letting go of all that self-analytical behavior that goes on in my head. It was just liberating. I loved it.
That's wonderful. I tend to make decisions in my life now through the lens of thinking, is this going to make me feel alive? Am I going to feel creative? Is it going to challenge me? Am I going to expand in some way because of it?
For many people, they look at money and financial independence as this gateway to happiness. They think, I'm gonna get all this money and then I'm going to be happy. But in reality, nearly everyone I've talked to who's become financially independent, they get the money and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm just as happy or unhappy as I was before. It didn't actually change anything about my mental state. For myself, I often say that although my work over the past 15 years has been ostensibly about personal finance, it's actually been about happiness. I always consider Get Rich Slowly a happiness blog. I wrote a book called Your Money, the Missing Manual, and the very first line is, you don't want to be rich, you want to be happy. But I've also come to understand that the pursuit of happiness itself is misguided. It's a target you're never going to hit. Happiness is a byproduct, in much the same way that getting out of debt is a byproduct of doing the right things with your money. Yeah. Happiness is a byproduct of doing the right things in your life.
I think as long as you seek happiness outside of yourself, it's always going to be a letdown. And I don't even use happiness much anymore because I think it's too small of a goal. I think that to create more peace in our lives is really about finding alignment within ourselves and our own mindset, and freedom really is freedom of mind, than it is some external measure or metric. And it took me making way more money than I would ever need to have the time to sit and meditate 2 hours a day in order to have this realization.
That's the power of financial freedom,
exactly.
Right there, is it allows you to do that.
Yeah, I was like, it's like money is really important until it's not.
That's deep. Are you sure this is all about money?
This isn't about money at all. Of course, none of this is about money. The money is the easy part, you know? This is one of the things I wish everyone could know, is that once you build a relationship with money and you go through the journeys that we've gone through, money has diminishing returns. It's a door to awakening.
It's freedom. Yeah, it just gives you the freedom to explore you.
JD, thank you for sitting down and being so open and sharing your thoughts around money. I thank you so much for being such an inspiration in my own life, and I'm really excited to not only to have learned from you, but now call you a friend, and I look forward to many conversations and continuing to travel on this life journey with you.
Absolutely, and thank you. As you know, I feel like I may have inspired you long ago, but you're inspiring me now in non-financial ways, and I really appreciate it.